Hello everyone, thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Max, and today I'm going to be doing my review for Hawkeye Episode 2. Alright, so as you've probably heard if you watched my review for the first episode of Hawkeye, I am absolutely loving this show so far. It's already one of my top MCU shows just because of how it's structured, how everything's working in it, the way they introduce the characters. Huge fan of Kate Bishop already, and I just feel like it started in a really great place. Now, episode 2 for me was no different. It took a deeper dive into the characters we saw in episode 1. It gave us a little bit more of, what the characters are going through and what their stories will focus on for the duration of the show, as well as where they're kind of, starting to meet up. At the end of episode 1, Clint confronted Kate, and that was where it cut off. We see this scene extended in the start of episode 2, and then they are essentially partnered by that point in time. So I really like how this episode already has brought these two characters together. It's not this thing where they just know about each other, and by the end of the series, they finally, come together to work together. It actually feels like this organic relationship that they've established where they need to be together because of the circumstances and everything going on. And I like how they each have their own problems too. Clint is finally trying to be there for his family, and he's not able to because his past is coming back to haunt him. Meanwhile, Kate Bishop's future is already haunting her, and it's getting intertwined with her present and everything going on with Clint as well. So I really liked how they're structuring this show in the way that it brings the characters together meaningfully, because I feel like in some of the other Disney Plus shows, there were some, relationships that didn't quite feel like they worked. Sam and Bucky is one of them that comes to mind. I think Loki and Sylvie was a little rough here and there. But it really feels like that Clint and Kate are coming together because they have to, and they do have a similar interest. And also, it's a level of kind of like a father-daughter relationship between them because Clint is teaching her how to do things like heal wounds. They are essentially doing the same missions together, and it really feels like a relationship that is built on something, and I can't wait to see where it goes in the future episodes. Now, a couple standouts from the show. I have to start with the LARP scene. I think that was hilarious because, based on what we saw in the trailer, I really didn't know what to expect, whether this was, Clint's pastime we didn't know about, or whether he had to do it for a reason. And I really like how he was brought into it. When I initially saw those clips in the promos, I thought it was a little silly. I was like, why would an Avenger need to go do live action role play? But it was handled incredibly well. I have no criticism with them including that in there. It made sense for the story. It was a firefighter who had the suit that he wanted, so he didn't want to really cause a scene, and he was also trying to stay on the down low in general. And I think it was done in a really good way because it was kind of playful, but then it also didn't drag on throughout the episode, and it was something that happened pretty quick, and then we can continue on with what we really want to see, which is the core of the story. Now, something else I really liked about this episode was Kate Bishop's spy skills, particularly, I can't remember his name, but the guy who's going to be her stepdad, who is a possible villain of the show. I really like how she was calling him out on all the sword stuff, and she was saying that he was lying about not being good at fencing, and then she proved that point. So I think her detective skills are really shining through, and they're doing it in a clever way because it's kind of, self-serving to her too. Of course, there are reasons, actual legitimate reasons for her to do this, such as her mother's safety. But I really like how it involves Kate's skills, and she's able to use those skills to kind of, help her mom and anybody else, but also kind of have this self-serving side because she does not like the situation that she's in with possibly getting a stepdad. And I think that was done really well because it adds levels of complexity to the character that I feel like we really haven't seen in the Disney Plus shows, because you really are dealing with someone who has, quote unquote, everything if she wanted to, but she wants something more. She's feeling like she doesn't really have a grasp on responsibility. She doesn't want to be a part of her mom's company. She's upset about possibly having a stepdad. She just met her hero. So there's a lot going on in her life, and I think they're showing that well, but also playing to the character's strengths at the same time. Now, I also like the Tracksuit Mafia. I wasn't really sure. I have known of them. That's one of the few things I knew from the comics, but I wasn't really sure how they were going to play into the show, whether they would be kind of a flag smasher type group or what they would be doing in the context of the show. But already we're seeing there is a greater purpose to them, or they are connected to something greater. A lot of people believe this is Kingpin. I think that's a very solid theory, but it's a group that is already coming up a lot in the show, and I just feel like there's more to them. And as we saw at the end of this episode, Echo is tied to them. So I think it's really great having them there because they work really well as street level thugs, but they are also tied to a greater aspect of the show, and they're not really just like this one-off, you know? That's something I kind of got from the Flag Smashers and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, was like, what are the Flag Smashers here to do? And, you know, what was the end goal they were trying to achieve? And it was a little muddied with that group, but I feel like for the Tracksuit Mafia, it's a lot clearer. They have people they answer to, they have things they want, and we've already established that in this show. So I really like where they're going. I appreciate how they are kind of almost like a gang in the Batman world. I thought the fight scene between Kate and the Tracksuit Mafia was very similar to the fight that we've seen in the new Batman trailers. And I'm a huge fan of Batman. Already a huge fan of the character of Kate Bishop, so I have no complaints there. I think the Tracksuit Mafia will come into play a lot more in either episode 3 or a future episode, and I can't wait to see how they evolve that group in the story they're telling. Now, the last thing I already touched upon a little bit was the appearance of Echo. Now, this is a big deal because the character of Echo, we already knew based on the promo from Disney Plus Day that she will be getting her own show. So I think showing the character here and introducing her is a great idea. I don't know how much she's going to be a part of this show, but it does seem like she will be the villain. And whether it's like a show kind of like what they're doing with Agatha, where it is an origin story or, you know, whatever, I don't know, but it's very obvious that Echo is going to play a key role in the show. And that was one of the highlights of the episode, just because it shows us where we're going with already introducing this character, because we hadn't known, I don't believe, till this episode came out when the character would be debuting in the show. I was thinking maybe around episode 5 or 6 to set up for the future project, but it actually seems like it will be a big role. So I can't wait to see what happens with that. And yeah, overall, really enjoyed this episode. I want to say I enjoyed episode 1 a little bit more. I don't know why. There was something about it. Maybe it was Rogers the Musical. I don't know. But super solid episode. I loved everything in it. The character development was great. The stories were fast-paced and moving, which I have absolutely been looking for in the Disney Plus shows, and I loved in this episode. And I can't wait to see what happens from here. So that's about all I have for now. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you liked it, please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.